All right, have and have not fans. This is the final video I'm recording before next Tuesday, of course, and I'm really excited because, to me, I say the best for last. This is almost like a not a eulogy, and what cracks me up about the has and have not social media community is the fact that after somebody dies, there's almost always somebody who does an obituary. And I'm going to try to put a picture up on the screen right now. And then there's always like Mr. Brown doing a eulogy, and it cracks me up every time. Talk about what kind of food they're going to be having, and it feels like a real church service. So just points for that. Really, just a good laugh. So this video is going to be kind of like my thoughts on Warlock as a character. I was actually going to do a separate video about the shootout, but I'll just put in here to make it simple on everybody that this video is going to be about Warlock as a character, the Malone Warlock crew shootout, and just my thoughts on his exit from the series. Now, John, I believe it's John, first name John, of course. I believe it's Chaffin, Chaffin, but whatever is you want to call or pronounce it, he did a fantastic job as Warlock. I even seen on social media that a lot of people feel like, hey, even though John is gone from the show, his demeanor and character would fit in on the show Power. And I have to agree based off the way he portrayed Warlock. And honestly, almost like, Maggie Day. And again, you've heard me say this in a lot of character analysis videos that Maggie Day is like the prime example of a character who I felt was great, but her exit from the series wasn't that good. But for Warlock, he went out the way I thought he would go out, being the gang war between the Malones and Warlock. And I called this a long time ago. And I even have a link to the video in the corner of this video itself about a Malone gang war. I called this a couple of seasons ago. Now, Warlock did exit the show in a fashion I thought he would, being a shootout, but I don't like the actions that led up to it, because just like Maggie Day falling out of her character, not being the calm, cool, collected person she was, she just made stupid mistakes like trusting Veronica enough to go over to her house, and that's when she got shot. Warlock, just after finding out Candace betrayed him, became a villain. And I wouldn't say that I didn't like Warlock when, he was stalking Candace or whatnot. I'm not saying that. I just feel like, he was making questionable choices that are outside of his character, because he was, even though he was a, street, as Jim would say, one of your street friends, thug friends or whatever, he still had smarts. He just had street smarts, whereas Jim had, political halves, have smarts. Warlock was a have-not, so to speak, but he did have money, drug money, pimp money, what have you. He had money, but I just didn't like, the whole scene. Like, well, I will say this: there was one scene people were like, man, that was stupid of him. It's like, oh, you ain't gonna wait for me, baby. When Candace said, hey, I'm at the hotel, I am, but we're not. You're not gonna meet me here. I'm gonna be gone. I'm not gonna wait. And he was like, oh, you ain't gonna wait for me there, baby. People were like, that was stupid of him to say. Honestly, I feel like that was in his character. I feel like that's how smooth he is when it comes to that. Like, look, bitch, I want to kill you, but hey, you still my girl. You see what I mean there? But I don't like the fact that he underestimated the Malones, because even one of his guys were like, oh, he's like, hey, get the monster. We're going to go over to the Malones restaurant. It's like, oh, but that's mom. I was like, shut up and get in the car. It's like, it's never a good sign when your crew is hesitant to go somewhere you want to go. That lets you know right there that maybe you're stepping into hot water. And it doesn't look good, the fact that all of his guys were shot. If I'm not mistaken, before Warlock could even point his gun at Candace, wham, he was gone. Next thing you know, there was a shootout. And I originally thought that not even one Malone was shot. I was actually corrected with that, because I had to rewatch the scene at least 5 times, like in slow motion, to try to, pick things out. And in this video, you'll see that there's going to be clips here and there, but I did look like at least one Malone got shot because it was the guy wearing like the white shirt on the screen there. Looks like he got shot in the side by the last man standing on War's crew, and then he was eventually shot. I mean, I'm not a gangster. I've never held a gun, nor do I plan on being in a shootout at any point in the future. But if I were that last guy, the one who was pretty much the last man standing, I would have ran out of there. I'm not gonna lie, because when you seen like your leader instantly get shot down, and then all of your other teammates, it's almost like Call of Duty, so to speak, or Zombie. I suck at those games because when I was in the dorms in college, I was horrible. I was shooting people on my team. I put it this way, I am not. I'm not saying I don't like the games. I am just no good at it. I mean, heck, I even suck at Mario Kart, but that's besides the point. If I were out, if I were that guy, at least he did get one shot and he did shoot the one guy. But to be the last man standing, he stayed in there to the end. I will say that much. He did fight to the end, so to speak. But wow, that was just a lost cause. It was just. I wanted the game. I'm not saying I was disappointed. Let's put it this way. I'm not disappointed because I called the gang war. It went down how honestly I thought, Mama Rose and them were going to come to war, which I think they were. It's just that, Mitch got to him first. I just feel like it was a bit one. All right. Okay. Maybe I am a little bit disgruntled. I'm trying to put this into words. The gang war happened like I predicted. It just didn't fully go down like I expected because I felt like it was too one-sided because War was literally walking into a trap. You know what I mean? And I mean, did he even question? I mean, he did have his crew with him because his original plan was, hey, one of his guys got the call that Mitch was seen around the Malone restaurant. So Warlock was going there with his crew, without a doubt. It seemed like, Candace being there was like the icing on the cake. But it just didn't go down the way I expected because I felt like should have been more casualties on both sides because Warlock and his crew was completely completely gunned down. And from my knowledge of rewatching the scene over and over, we only saw like maybe one or two guys on Mama Rose's team, gone or at least shot. So maybe in the next episode we'll get a body count, so to speak, in terms of Mama Rose, in terms of being mad that some of her guys were shot, or one guy at least was shot. So we'll need to see what happens next episode before I make a full judgment. But I just felt like it was way too one-sided when I thought this gang fight was going to be really hands-on in terms of, oh man, it's going to be hard to tell who won or who's going to win. But the fact that Warlock was just instantly killed off from the get-go, it was kind of like, oh my god, like he got what was coming to him, but I didn't expect it to go that quickly. You know what I mean? That's why I didn't even, and I think I even mentioned this in one of my previous videos, that aside from me working overtime and it being the busy season in the call center, I didn't do an episode review like I did last week because I felt like the episode Haunted by a Surname was better than the episode we got in The Enemy Called Trust. I just felt like that episode as a whole was better executed, even like the scenes where we met Melissa's mom and Wyatt talking about what his dreams were as a kid, and even the setup with Mitch initially calling Candace calling Mitch being at the police station with Hannah and them, just those little scenes like that. I felt like that episode as a whole was put together better than last week's episode. Honestly, one of the main, if only big things about the episode I didn't like was, Wyatt spilling all that tea about his parents to the DA, which again, I even did a video about how I don't think that's going to stand in court because Wyatt is a recovering addict, not to mention he had no legal, assistance on his side while he was telling the DA that information. So it's probably not going to hold up. But that goes to, Warlock's character as a whole. I'm just going to talk about the fact that as a whole, I enjoyed Warlock in the series from his initial introduction with Candace to kind of like the brother-sister relationship those two had, even down to the, scenes where he abducted Jim. And we got more of his character when those two were talking, not only in the war room, but also when those two were cell by cell in, jail, just talking about, his past, how he felt cheated being black and whatnot, how he doesn't have the same opportunities. And you almost felt like Jim felt sorry for the kid, so to speak, or he saw some of himself in Warlock. But we just never get to see any of that because he got killed off so soon, because the fact, like, he just cut ties with Jim instantly, because after, put it this way, his vendetta, or vengeance against Candace, like, clouded his judgment, almost like when David got arrested and then Maggie Day started to make stupid decisions. That's why I feel like his exit from the show wasn't as well executed as I wanted it to be. It was good, but it just wasn't executed like I wanted it. I know, like, it's not going to go my way. That goes for all of, excuse me, just one second. Let me stand up. Been sitting down too long recording these videos. But it just goes back to the fact that, we all have our own perspective or opinion on how a certain scene or episode should go. And I felt like the gang, and I've said it, I even talked about it a few minutes ago in this video, that the gang war wasn't executed the way that I thought it should have been, because it shouldn't have been as one-sided as it was. But at the same time, I didn't like the fact that Warlock was pretty much, killed off that quickly without showing him at least having one last badass moment in the series. So as a character, I did like learning in the past that, Hannah treated him like a son, and, him and Benny were on good terms, but him using Benny as, leeway with Candace, like, hey, if you don't pay me, I want to kill your brother. And that really just throws out of the window all of the good scenes we had, like when, after finding out Quincy slapped Hannah, Benny went straight to Warlock for assistance, just to kind of find out where Quincy was. Because remember, Warlock was willing, like, hey, you want me to ride with you? It's like he was ready to get him and some of his crew members to go find Quincy with Benny to beat him down. And that would have been a good scene. But that just shows you right there that, he was down for, the youngs. That was his, that was his blood, so to speak. Not, in terms of being straight up family, like that's my mother and sister and brother. But the way Hannah treated him like her son, it was almost like War was one of her own, and he was, a sibling to Candace and Benny. So that's how I looked at it. But I felt like that was thrown away when it came down to him, sexually abusing Candace and whatnot. And I just felt like that kind of tarnished all of the great scenes and character development we had gotten thus far. Even the scene where Hannah goes to plead with Warlock to leave Candace alone. The fact that, hey, I can't look weak, because if I do, one of these guys is going to, kill me. And it's just like, I just hated that, because it just threw away all the great Warlock moments we had gotten up to that point. And man, and even when it comes down to Candace wanting Warlock to go straight, I just hated how that plot was thrown out of the picture because of the whole, oh, Candy lied to me about the money. And even Candace, being the, pathological liar she is, I think that's a word. It sounds familiar. I feel like I heard that word before. But I felt like that was a great plot point that got thrown away, because I would have loved to see Warlock, go straight, working with Benny, because again, Benny has the ambition, but Warlock has the business smart. So I feel like it's just like Warlock taking his business and street smarts and putting them to good use would make him a success, just as Candace taking her smarts and focusing that on law school. She'll be one of the best damn attorneys in the country. And it's just a shame that those, it's just Warlock was killed off like that. I just hate that. So he did have to die after killing Quincy. He did have to die. But at the same time, it's just a shame, because it was so much potential that we'll just never see. It's almost like, Amanda, untapped potential and character we never get to see because she was killed off. And that leads to my last point here about some fans questioning whether or not Warlock was dead, because even after being shot, he was shown, on the ground bleeding. And even after John posted on social media about it, thanks to Tyler Perry for letting him to be part of the show, people were like, Warlock's not dead. I'm like, I didn't say anything. I was just reading the comments and whatnot. And yeah, he is dead. But honestly, I can see why fans would be skeptical, because you think about Quincy, all the times it seemed like he was dead or should have died, but he was still alive. Like when Benny wrecked the car at the strip club and beat him up. Well, we kind of got the feeling he didn't kill Quincy in that incident, but pretty much beat him down. But then the next scene where it's like, he should have died, where Benny sabotaged the truck seatbelt on the passenger side, so Quincy pretty much like internal bleeding. What? Benny drug him out of the truck, beat him down, threw the drugs in his jacket, called 911 and ran off. And then it's like somehow Quincy managed to like drag or scuffle his body from the street, leaving the drugs planted there, to like the bushes and whatnot, maybe 30 or 50 feet away. And it's like the cops are just standing there. It's like, how the hell did they not, walk around or survey the scene or, locate Quincy's body by the blood trail? And then later on, you see Quincy limping into the hospital, and it's like, how the heck did he make it that far? Then when he crashed the car into Hannah's house, and he's like, I got you, Benny. And then he limped away seconds before the house exploded, caught fire. And then, of course, after being stabbed all those times by I think that Jeffrey tried, breaking a vase or something over his head first. And then he took the knife and stab. And then Quincy was laying out on the floor bleeding for several episodes before, he eventually came back into consciousness by grabbing Candace on the ankle. And then Candace just sat there while he eventually died. So I can see why some people would say like, oh man, after one gunshot, Warlock isn't dead. Because Maggie Day and Jennifer were shot multiple times. And then they, of course, were dead. But they got shot multiple times, so it made sense why they were dead. But, Quincy pretty much being immortal, so to speak, I see why some fans would be skeptical that Warlock was dead. So it is sad to see him go, but I just feel like I said I'm not even going to talk about it anymore. That the gang fight was good, but not what I expect. I expected to be a little bit more, each side was losing people instead of one side being totally dominated. But I'm going to miss you, John. I feel like you did one hell of a job as Warlock. I hope you're off to bigger and better things, because again, great job as Warlock. Loved him as a character. So I just want to get your thoughts on not only John's performance as Warlock, what do you think of Warlock as a character? Do you feel like myself, where I feel like he got what he deserved, but I don't think the execution was as it wasn't as written as well as I think it should have been? And what did you think of the Malone Warlock shootout?